Your body cams will be transmitting that. The police will be on their best behavior because we're constantly recording, watching and recording everything that's going on. Citizens will be on their best behavior because we're constantly recording and reporting everything that's going on.
Yes, we're gonna surveil everybody. Everyone will be on their best behavior. Yes, you're a freak. You're a total creep.
Okay.
When you come to government and what government's doing, there are artificial intelligence tools, and some of them I know that Oracle have developed around financial management for government. But also, tell us a bit about what, because you're right at the forefront of this revolution, what it means for what government should do in terms of its digital infrastructure, digital ID, data centers, and so on.
The first thing a country needs to do is to unify all of their data so it can be consumed and used by the AI model. You have to take all of your healthcare data, your diagnostic data, your electronic health records, your genomic data. And in the Middle East, in the UAE, for example, they're incredibly rich in data. We have to take all of this data we have in our country and move it into a single, if you will, unified data platform. But there is something we can do about it, not after the data is stolen, but before the data is stolen. We can make sure that we're using the latest security technology, and it is going to be biometrics assisted by AI to make sure that you are in fact Tony Blair, and I'm sure you are.
Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. It feels like it's been forever since I've put out a video, even though it's been less than 2 weeks. There's so much going on all the time that it feels like it's been a lot longer. I've just been so busy with things, in the background here. But I have missed laughing with you guys at the sheer craziness of it all. I think it's safe to say at this point that the Care Bears have gone completely mask off. In their insane lust for power, they can't help but reveal themselves. So of course they're always perpetual victims, and anybody who provides even the mildest feedback or pushback on them, they all pile on. They all attack day after day. They are paying influencers now $7,000 a piece for pro-Care Bear propaganda, essentially across social media. But at the same time, because of their narcissism and their ego, they can't help but brag about their power, their consolidation of social media, of the quote information war, as Netanyahu said TikTok was a weapon in. And people are now seeing this. They are revealing who they truly are, while at the same time, as they brag about their power and their control and their prowess and capabilities, anybody who says that isn't them, like somebody like myself, they call conspiratorial and dangerous, and oh, you just have an irrational hatred for them. It is quite frankly absurd, and it's interesting too this time because there's something happening where both on the left and on the right, at least in the younger generations, this is becoming a topic for people to unite on. This insane control that a hostile foreign nation has on our government, the disgusting and humiliating subservience of our government to these people is on display for all and sundry to see when we have to watch our politicians going to a foreign country every other day, kissing a wall, giving talking points. Every other day they're tweeting about Israel and how we need to give them more money, and everything is about them. And then when you criticize this foreign country, they say that you're obsessed with them. And it's like, no, we're not obsessed with you. In fact, we would like to not have to talk about you and think about you, but the fact that our entire government revolves around you makes it nearly impossible not to talk about you and not to notice what is going on. the insane foreign influence campaign, the humiliation rituals being done to our politicians and how they attack people who criticize them, again, mildly, the insanity about Tucker Carlson. It's just gotten out of control. And I think that, they really have lost the plot, and they've lost their stranglehold on, like the generations, on the younger generation. They do not have the support that they had with the older generation, and I do not believe they will ever get it back. We've all been seeing what they've been doing the past 2 years in the Middle East. We know they are aggressing 7 other countries as we speak, while pretending to be the victims, while boasting about their power, but then crying about how they're just the size of New Jersey. And, we're surrounded by enemies on all sides. Oh, but then you also brag about your capabilities, your reach, how you attack these other countries. So which is it, the perpetual victim or the powerful bully, right? It can't be both at the same time. And that is what people are starting to wake up to. And I think that that is a beautiful thing. But now we are getting Barry Weiss, a foreign agent, running CBS News after the son of Larry Ellison from Oracle, the CIA In-Q-Tel creation. Larry Ellison, of course, being the single greatest donor to the Friends of the IDF. It is very concerning. His son purchasing Paramount, installing Barry Weiss at CBS. It's just ridiculous. And I think that people are starting to wake up to this. In fact, even I would say some of the older folks who were very staunch in their support for this because that's how they were raised. I think that there's a lot of people questioning things right now, and that is a good thing. But let's just go ahead and get into the video. We're going to start with Ben Shapiro, who never tires of whining and complaining about everybody.
There's a part of the right that is extraordinarily conspiratorial in its approach to the world and sees, forget about Israel, sees Jews as a sort of conspiratorial force in the United States, tries to manifest, tries to.
So as you know, people like Ben Shapiro have been trying to attack America First patriots who question the outsized influence that this tiny country in the Middle East has on our foreign policy, the stranglehold it has on our foreign policy, on our politicians. You're conspiratorial if you notice those things. Meanwhile, it's all a fact. He's not saying that they're wrong. He's calling them conspiratorial and mean.
Claim that all the problems in America are the responsibility of a foreign state or Judaism as a religion.
Gee, Ben, have you ever stopped to ask yourself why that might be the case? Have you ever considered self-reflection? Have you considered the group behavior of the Care Bears and how that might contribute to people thinking these things when we have to watch our politicians do humiliation rituals in that country? I mean, what are we supposed to think when Benjamin Netanyahu is calling TikTok a weapon and then it gets bought by Larry Ellison? Oh, it's going to be all stored on Oracle servers now. Oh, and you get censored if you talk about AIPAC, when before that, it was fine to criticize those things. Your demands for censorship, sir, are anti-American. So I don't think it's appropriate for you to even comment on Americans, what Americans should be doing. And talk about ungrateful, too. Think about how much money we send, billions of dollars to them in aid and weapons. They all have free health care. We Americans are struggling, and there's no gratitude from this individual. Listen to him. And that is what people are recognizing, this entitled narcissistic behavior and the double standards for them that get applied to nobody else.
And yeah, that's a conspiratorial force inside the right. That's, I think, extremely dark, and it is rising because social media. But a lot of that's divisive.
But a lot of them were allies is the right word, but Alexander were connected with us, right? I mean, a lot of these people are within those circles that you are part of, in a sense.
Yes.
And then, so like, how do they flip?
I mean,
So he has at least a little bit of self-awareness to say, well, actually, everybody is turning away from us. You know, we are disgusting pretty much the entire world. What happened? I don't know. Maybe you should self-reflect. How about listening to the valid criticisms of your behavior instead of dismissing it as, ooh, people just don't like us because of who we are?
how did that happen? So, I mean, we were all first like that. I think that, well, some of them were. I mean, I think someone's left, some of them were. I think that the social media incentive structures right now are truly terrible. So if you go on X, you're going to get a lot more likes and clicks if you are promoting an anti-Israel, anti-Semitic agenda than if you do the opposite. Same thing is true on TikTok.
This is, of course, why they want to censor all social media. It's anti-American. It's against free speech. Why is that stuff gaining traction, though? If there's no truth to it, it would simply be ignored. The fact that this is resonant with so many people should be cause for some kind of self-reflection that they just seem incapable of grasping or doing.
So is it a financial thing? Or? Well, I think some of it's financial. I think some of it is that these people tend to believe in a lot of conspiracy theories about how the
Oh, okay, right. It's financial. So people who criticize this country get blacklisted professionally. They get prevented from furthering their careers if they are people who are in the media. They get attacked relentlessly by Care Bear special interest groups who write hit pieces on them, who go after their ability to have a livelihood. They're standing in their community who spread smears about them, calling them bigots and hateful people. It's very nasty, the things that they do. So what is the financial incentive to this, to being debanked? Yeah, you're debanked and you're censored and you're prevented from going on certain platforms from ever, reaching any kind of more mainstream audience because of these blacklists. That's a financial incentive, really. Well, when we look at the other hand, look at all the people getting paid to put out pro-Care Bear propaganda. They're getting paid $7,000 a post. Do you not think that that is a financial incentive?
world works. And virtually every conspiracy theory at the end of it, unfortunately, is true, because where all the conspiracy theories go to is, and then who's successful, right? And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on,
That was all our problem.
well, right, so they were good. Well, so the
Right? Like we used to.
I mean, if you are on the left, then you say there are people in society who have been
Oh, okay. So it always and isn't that revealing, that statement, that all these conspiracies always lead back to them for just no reason at all, just because they're successful? Really? And that's another interesting thing, too. When we look at Barry Weiss getting handed CBS News, that was not based on merit. Oh, she's successful. No, the free press was propped up. It was funded by tech oligarchs and pro-Care Bear radicals. She has accomplished nothing. Nobody even pays attention to that publication. She doesn't get many views, and yet she is being installed to lead CBS. It's not about success. It is about cartel, mafia-style, in-group preference behavior and nepotism of a group that is 2% of the population and exerts inordinate influence and control over the policies of this country. That is a valid criticism. And again, what he said was revealing. But of course, they always come up with these stories to make up they just have very good verbal skills, right? They're just super smart and successful. Does Barry Weiss seem smart or successful to you?
benefited from our systems of power. Who are the people who are well-educated and rich? Disproportionately, a lot of Jews are well-educated and rich. Therefore, Jews are the bad guy. And you see
No, this is not the case, though. There's a lot of other people who are well educated and rich, and they don't have the entire world hating them, right? And also, who is the one that promoted the eat the rich stuff on college campuses? What kinds of professors were teaching classes on eradicating whiteness, for example? Isn't that interesting? And now we'll move on to Dinesh D'Souza talking to Eric Matexas, and it's just absolutely, you just listen to it for yourself.
We're called to love the people of God. And we know one of the ways that I know the Jews are God's chosen people is the hatred, the irrational hatred for them. You don't see an irrational hatred of any other group. There's something there.
Isn't that fascinating? Calling them God's chosen people. This is a man who LARPs as a Christian when he is in fact a Care Bear, crypto Care Bear. No, the people who rejected God are not his chosen people. God's chosen people are the Christians. As Jesus Christ said, nobody goes to the Father but through him. They reject him. They are in open rebellion to everything Christ stands for. So it's fascinating to me how he says this. And Dinesh D'Souza, of course, just doesn't question it at all. He just sits here like nodding along.
Which to me, as a negative, shows the positive.
Right. As a negative, it shows the positive because that makes sense. Well, guess what? Universally, pedos are reviled. Does that make them special? God's chosen people because the world rejects their disgusting perversions? No. So this is the logic of this man's thinking. It is wild.
Shows that God's hand is on the people of Israel. And again, the details are details. You can talk forever about it. But the idea that they're people somehow who have an animus against Israel, or somehow, let's face it, Dinesh, who want to blame the Jews for anything, for crucifying Jesus, this is ridiculous.
That's not ridiculous. I mean, that is in fact what happened. And they said, let his blood be upon us and our children. And when you simply look at the behavior of the terrorist state, the mafia state, it is complete rejection of Christianity, of God, of Christ. It is conducting a genocide and targeting women and children, civilians. Thousands upon thousands of people dead since 10/7. It is outrageous. And so these people, as you all know, are getting paid. Did he get $7,000 to make this statement? It wouldn't surprise me. And when you look at him with his greasy, slicked back hair and his suit and his glasses, it is not, he looks like, you know, a shyster. This is a man who will say anything for money. This is the kind of man you would see at a used car lot. This would be the salesperson that would be coming up to you and trying to sell you the beater and telling you that, oh no, it's a great car. Everything works great. Now we'll move to Sherry Redstone. And the insanity, and what I mean is, like, they are just outright saying this stuff publicly, and it is hilarious. And of course, at the same time, every accusation is a confession.
I feel as though we might be.
Just so people know, I assume most of the people listening to this already know Redstone is not their real last name. They changed it. This is something they frequently do to conceal who they really are. Isn't that interesting? And why is it that they have been kicked out of 110 countries, the only people that has happened to? And there's never a question of why. And how their behavior is the single greatest cause of people not liking them. It has nothing to do with them just being who they are. No, it is the things that they do, their subversive behavior, how they come in and try to control our countries and our nations and dictate to us how we can talk about things, that we're not allowed to criticize them, that they're going to censor social media or buy up every single platform and then censor it, consolidate power, put out their talking points, put out their propaganda, attack anybody who questions them. That is what people are disgusted with and are done with.
In a war, fighting hate and anti-Semitism. But when we
So listen to what she says. She used to be head of Paramount. Now that is being taken over, of course, by Barry Weiss, David Ellison buying Paramount. Listen to how she talks about what they do on Paramount with media and what she thinks they should be doing.
I feel as though we might be in a war, fighting hate and anti-Semitism. But when we're doing programming to address these issues, I think we need to use language and create programs that unite people and that aren't so divisive. If we take a step back, I think we all agree.
So she views herself as fighting a war against hate and anti-Care Bearism, and she believes it is her job to use Paramount to put out propaganda. And that's in fact what they have just done. They've just released a complete propaganda series about 10/7. It's ridiculous.
That we want a world without hate, that we all see the impact that hate is having on our society.
When they say hate, they mean anybody that criticizes or questions their behavior or simply disagrees with them. That to them is hate. And what does this mean, right? This idea that hate is somehow a bad thing. I hate evil. I hate sinful behavior that is harmful to other people. It is not in and of itself a bad thing. This bizarre pathologizing of a very normal human emotion, that we see evil and we hate it. We feel visceral disgust and anger about it. That is righteous anger and righteous hatred. So this is ridiculous. You cannot force people to like you or love you, and no amount of propagandizing people and flooding them with nonsense is going to make that so. In fact, it is beginning to have the opposite effect, so keep it up.
And on our lives, and that we want to create a better world for our future generations and for our children and our grandchildren. So to me, using that language is a way that we can come together, we can recognize that we all share these common goals, and not think about where our differences are.
How does usury, censorship, and propaganda make a better world for our children?
I want to go back to decades ago when there was a movie that came out called Passion of Christ. And I remember screening the movie and saying, "Oi," a good Jewish word.
Oy vey.
And I was really concerned about what that would do when the movie was screened and people saw it, and that it might lead to a rise in anti-Semitism. So I immediately did an event where I brought together religious leaders from across the state of Massachusetts.
This is psychotic behavior. This is neurotic. This is bizarre. People watching a movie about the story of Christ has her so concerned. Why is that? Why is that exactly?
We screened the movie. We had dinner, food, screened the movie, fun, but not so much fun. And family created that community where we had a discussion and we talked about how could they use this film in their sermons on Sunday? How could we use this to send a unifying message?
So she admits to meeting with these evangelical psychos and having them literally propagandize their congregations using this film to take away attention from what that reveals about their past historical behavior.
So content, no matter how challenging it may be, if it can spark a conversation in empathy, has a real ability for impact.
And of course, that empathy only goes one way. You're supposed to have empathy for them while they have nothing but contempt for you and call you names and try to destroy your life, ruin you financially if you criticize them. It is ridiculous. They don't have any empathy for anybody that they have gone after, that they have attacked. It's insane.
Initially, I resented the fact that there was no appreciation for nuance. Like if you
And here we've got Matt Gaetz, and this is very interesting because if you guys remember, he was going to be the Attorney General. This is who President Trump picked to be his Attorney General, and he faced a lot of attacks, and he was the victim of a Care Bear honeypot operation run by a man named Joel Greenberg. This is from the 2018 timeframe where he was trying to implicate Matt Gaetz in some kind of underage inappropriate behavior. This was unsuccessful, but it was the smear alone, the mere fact that he associated with this man that caused this to happen. And so I always found it very interesting how, now we've got Scam Bondi.
If you asked any questions about any decision of the Israeli government in any place regarding settlements, regarding Gaza, whatever, you were like, you had deviated from the script. And I just, in any policy area, I had resentment over that. And then I saw the way the AIPAC worked.
Yeah, so he is going to talk about how absolutely insane the government works right now. And like he said, you are not allowed to go off script. Our American politicians are held hostage by a cabal of foreign people who have an allegiance to another country, not ours, though a lot of them live in America and are American citizens. They don't see themselves as Americans. They see themselves as Care Bears first. That's where their loyalty lies, and everything they do revolves around that.
And that was weird for like a country lawyer like me. I remember my first AIPAC reception, and like your fundraiser tells you have to go, and your chief of staff tells you have to go, your committee chairman all tell you have to go.
Why is that, by the way? Why are all of these committee people, fundraisers, chiefs of staff, why are they all running the same playbook, the same script? Is that not concerning? As a national security thing, that a foreign country seems to be controlling not just our politicians, but the people who run their campaigns, the people who run their offices. This is strange, is it not? If it was China, if it was Russia, everybody would say this is wildly inappropriate and potentially illegal.
You get there and you wear this name badge, and I remember there's a QR code on it. And what we were supposed to do was go talk to donors, and then if they liked you, they scanned your QR code.
Wow. What a humiliation ritual. Could you imagine being a grown adult and you're trying to run for office so that you can represent your constituency, the American people of your local area, and you have to go to a foreign lobbying group meeting event and you have to wear a barcode that they can scan to give you money if you dance like a monkey the way they want you to? How humiliating, how emasculating, how bizarre, how strange.
To make a donation, like on the spot. And so can you just imagine how demoralizing that is to like be told that your job for the next several hours to go chat people up, hoping they would scan you like a can of tomato soup on the way out of the meeting.
I mean, it's literally purchasing.
Right.
America for sale.
And so I saw that and I was like, wow, that is so freaking weird. And then, I was in Israel. I went multiple times, and I did not like the fact that I found someone in my room rooting around in my stuff that should.
Isn't that interesting? Breaking into the rooms of congressmen while you make them go on a guided tour to your country where they can be propagandized, bullied, bought, bribed, spied on. Good God. So we're going to move on now and talk about Bari Weiss. For people who are unfamiliar with this, Bari Weiss appointed editor-in-chief of CBS News under new acquisition deal, because the Care Bears literally just bought CBS. Weiss is a staunch supporter of the Care Bear Nation, and her journalism often circles back to her Care Bear identity. This is why she was appointed editor-in-chief. Not because of her talent, not because she worked really hard and earned it and pulled herself up by the bootstraps. No, it is for this reason alone. She has argued for the dismantling of DEI programs except for Care Bears. Those DEI programs are fine. And so, this is what we have here coming from the Gray Zone. New CBS owner David Ellison, son of psychopath Larry Ellison, met with top Care Bear general in a scheme to spy on Americans. The Care Bear Nation's former top general sought donations from David Ellison and his father Larry as part of a billionaire coterie to fund digital paramilitaries aimed at sabotaging pro-Palestine activists. The leaked documents show one planner explaining, quote, "In the jungle, we need more guerrillas and less IDF." With Paramount and CBS News now under his control and TikTok as well, the younger Ellison has installed self-described Care Bear fanatic Bari Weiss as editor-in-chief. And this is disturbing for a variety of reasons. But let's just go into this. So, dubbed the, quote, 12 tribes, a reference to the dozen Care Bear billionaires solicited to fund the surveillance firms run by Care Bear Intel veterans on behalf of Tel Aviv, as it targeted American citizens. Some of these influential billionaires are David Ellison, his father Larry Ellison, Haim Saban, a big Hillary Clinton donor, the Rothschild banking dynasty, Sergey Brin, co-founder of Google. It is insane. The new owner of Paramount, David Ellison, participated in a Care Bear government-led plot to surveil and suppress pro-Palestine activists in America. This is a foreign country running foreign influence operations on American citizens with the help of other so-called Americans, and nothing is done to these people. Originally dubbed 12 Tribes, a reference to the dozen Care Bear billionaires solicited to underwrite the operation, the scheme sought out American faces to fund surveillance firms run by Care Bear intelligence veterans on behalf of Tel Aviv, as it targeted Americans participating in the BDS movement. The emails documenting the foreign influence campaign to counter BDS were first identified by journalist Jack Paulson, who discovered them in a trove leaked by the Hindala Hacking Collective in 2024. The files show former Care Bear Defense Minister Benny Gantz tasked with recruiting wealthy Westerners to fund surveillance firms operated by the Care Bear Nation Intel veterans as they stalked and harassed people whom the government of the Care Bear Nation suspected of harboring pro-Palestinian sympathies. In the emails, Hollywood talent agency executive Adam Berkowitz identified Ellison as, quote, very interested in helping out with undermining the BDS movement. Berkowitz introduced Ellison to the Care Bear general in a group email. Quote, Benny, meet David. David, meet Benny. Berkowitz wrote on December 23rd, 2015, explaining that he, quote, told David briefly about Gantz's 12-tribe idea, which you can expound on him, to which he seemed very interested in. 2 days later, Ellison replied, "Gantz, it is a pleasure to meet you over email. I very much look forward to discussing everything you're working on, and in the meantime, hope you're enjoying the holiday season." He added, "I'll be back in LA January 3rd and look forward to connecting in the new year." The planning spreadsheet names other Care Bear billionaires sought for the effort. They include David's father, Oracle founder and Friends of the IDF board member Larry Ellison, Care Bear American billionaire, top Democrat Party sugar daddy Haim Saban, and Google founder Sergey Brin, whose Care Bear support was still, quote, to be determined. One of those named, Canadian book chain owner Heather Reisman, had, quote, already agreed to donate. You could not make this up if you wanted to. It is that outrageous. The document also listed other hyper-wealthy Care Bear activists as potential 12 tribe members, alongside the following descriptions. Eli Broad, $7.5 billion, real estate giant, philanthropist, you all know what that means, full-on artist, support pro-Care Bear causes. Simo Niesenbaum, art collector, quote unquote. We all know what that really means. You're involved in shady activity. Partner of Personnel Investments Limited since 2008, director of Oomph Incorporated, finance, supports the Weitzman Institute. Dorothea Steinbrook, $5.8 billion, steel industry. The Safra family. Kevin Burmeister, tech innovator, real estate investor, full-on artist, founding investor of Skype. So all of these platforms are completely compromised. Frank Lowy, co-founder of the Westfield Group, operator of over 100 shopping centers in Australia, New Zealand, the US, and UK, net worth of $4.6 billion. Anthony Pratt, net worth of $7.1 billion, packaging industry. Edward Kuckerman, French Care Bear businessman, Rothschild family, banking dynasty, they write. Lord Stanley Fink, net worth $180 million, former hedge fund manager, pro Care Bear, full-on artist. Sir Ronald Cohen, British businessman and political figure known as the father of British venture capital. Grotesque. Lord George Weidenfeld, British publisher, full-on artist, newspaper columnist, pro-Care Bear supporter. Of course, he's a publisher and columnist, aka a propagandist. Poju Zabludowicz, Finnish-born, London-based business magnate, investor, art collector, and pro-Care Bear full-on artist, one of the main supporters of UK pro-Care Bear group BICOM. Those afforded the dubious honor of being selected to donate $1 million to the official Care Bear propaganda slush fund would be anointed one of the, quote, 12 tribes of the Care Bear Nation, all of whom would be guided directly by the Care Bear government, according to a promotional document. Funding for this initiative shall be provided by an exclusive group of the 12 most influential Care Bear full-on artists, symbolizing the 12 tribes. The Care Bear government shall act as a 13th facilitating tribe. Internal planning documents from the Care Bears Institute for National Security Studies, a quote, independent think tank that serves as an extension of the Care Bear military, show how the 12 tribes envisioned itself. Quote, strategically, we want to be a non-hierarchical mothership working for the people and state of the Care Bear Nation. However, the effort's masterminds were heavily preoccupied with maintaining a facade of independence from Tel Aviv. Quote, government money is also a political constraint, one organizer stated, adding, in order to act on all target audiences, independence is required. But it's not real independence. It's the appearance of independence, which is often why they utilize crypto Care Bears. People who are, Gentiles, shall we say, but not really. It's just ridiculous. Another planner agreed the scheme would be more effective if it posed as autonomous. In the jungle, we need more guerrillas and less IDF, a third volunteered. Quote, this will not be a covert project, but the connection to the state and government needs to be very controlled. I wonder why that is. Why does it need to be controlled? With funding from the 12 tribes, the Care Bear Nation would deploy, quote, state-of-the-art cyber technology as a soft weapon through firms like Black Cube, the notorious Care Bear intel cutout best known for stalking the accusers of Harvey Weinstein. Black Cube also acts as an attack dog for the makers of highly invasive Pegasus spyware, the Care Bears NSO group. As Obama closed in on a nuclear deal with Iran, Black Cube sent agents, again under false cover, to investigate administration officials involved in the negotiations. Internal Black Cube documents boast that the Care Bear company has, quote, developed several unique methods, especially social engineering, to, quote, move freely in limited access environments while harvesting data from the dark net. This is the flyer that they put out, and if you want to pause the video and screenshot this, you can read it for yourself. You can also find this in the Gray Zone article as well. The email exchanges offer a glimpse into the early stages of David Ellison's emerging role as one of Silicon Valley's top Care Bear enforcers. It's a role he was seemingly born to play, given the zeal displayed by his billionaire father, Larry, in defending the rogue state. Further emails from the Hendala Trench reveal Larry Ellison was tasked by the Care Bear Nation with evaluating current Secretary of State Marco Rubio's allegiance to their nation a decade ago, with Tel Aviv's then UN ambassador Ron Pauser asking Larry Ellison in 2015, quote, how was the conversation with Marco Rubio? Did he pass your scrutiny? Did you have a chance to talk about the Care Bear Nation? Ellison responded in the affirmative, declaring, Marco will be a great friend to the Care Bear Nation. The elder Ellison has maintained an extremely close relationship with Tel Aviv, funneling tens of millions of dollars to Care Bear militants via the Friends of the IDF group in recent years. In fact, a decade before the International Criminal Court indicted Netanyahu, aka Milikowski, for war crimes in Gaza, Ellison attempted to place him on the board of directors of Oracle. Can you imagine? It's that ridiculous. Larry Ellison is at the helm of a consortium of Care Bear-tied billionaires taking over major U.S. media properties from TikTok to Paramount, which controls CBS News. With their takeover of Paramount complete, the Ellison family are not only poised to dictate Care Bear policy to U.S. viewers, but are well-positioned to dictate the situation on the ground in Gaza as well. Indeed, Ellison pledged over $350 million to the Tony Blair Institute, whose founder was named by the president as the future director of the so-called Gaza International Transitional Authority, a neo-colonial occupation entity that will provide an inevitable windfall to Tony Blair's big tech backers. Of course, it's all about the money. Oh, we need our beachfront property. The 41-year-old Bari Weiss began her career as a pro-Care Bear activist, hounding Palestinian professors on the campus of Columbia University before working for a number of Care Bear media outlets. An admitted Care Bear fanatic, she rose to prominence as a columnist at a neocon diversity hire at the New York Times opinion section before a stormy resignation in which she branded the paper as a woke hive infected with cancel culture, while omitting her long history of attempting to cancel critics of the Care Bear Nation. Her final attempt to cancel Care Bear critics at the New York Times apparently resulted in literally the assassination of one of her targets, the Palestinian scholar and pundit Rifat Al-Arir, who was unalived by a Care Bear drone strike after Bari Weiss falsely accused him of mocking a non-existent dead Care Bear baby. She literally got a man killed. As she struck out on her own, Weiss basked in support from techno-feudalist financial angels like David Sachs and Mark Andreessen, founding a, quote, anti-woke ultra Care Bear outlet ironically called the Free Press. Today, the Free Press partners with a Care Bear propaganda cutout called Center for Peace Communications. It's so funny when they label things like the Patriot Act, because it's the exact opposite of that. The Center for Peace Communications is the exact opposite of what it's named, which attempts to foment divisions within Arab societies and promotes the militia of ISIS-linked Yasser Abu Shabab, a notorious smuggler in Gaza who operates alongside the Care Bear army. With support from Palantir co-founder Joe Lonsdale, Bari Weiss has also launched an anti-woke quasi-university, the University of Austin, where students read passages from Palantir CEO and university trustee Alex Karp's harshly panned book, The Technological Republic. Alongside Plato's Republic. It's insane. Upon entering the university's gates, visitors are greeted with a bust of Bari Weiss, the founding mother, donated, of course, by Lonsdale. You couldn't make it up if you wanted to. To complete Ellison's Paramount takeover, his company is purchasing Weiss's Free Press at an eye-popping price of $150 million. Certainly it is not worth $150 million. Most people don't read it. His appointment of Weiss as CBS editor-in-chief raises serious issues about the network's editorial independence, given her proclivity for using Free Press as a vehicle for promoting the interest of her tech donors. Who were the Free Press investors who profited from the sale to Paramount? Was David Sachs among them? Now that Sachs is a Trump White House special advisor on AI and crypto, his financial relationship with Bari Weiss creates a clear conflict of interest at
When
CBS.
I heard the Jews will not replace us, right?
And this, just to give you an idea of who Bari Weiss is, what matters to her, listen to this complete nonsense and drivel from her appearance on Joe Rogan. And why was she brought on Joe Rogan anyways? When she is irrelevant, nobody likes her, no one knew who she was. Why would she be picked to be a guest?
When I heard the Jews will not replace us, right? I heard it in like the plain meaning of that phrase. Like, the Jew is not going to take my job. The Jew is not going to like take my job in the corner office or whatever. But in fact, it was like a reflection of this replacement theory ideology.
Oh my goodness. Just listen to her. Let her dig her own grave.
Which is that brown people and black people and Muslims and immigrants are coming to replace our white civilization. And the Jew's job is basically to pass as a white person, but in fact do the bidding of these people that we deem to be not pure.
That's not actually what the theory is. It's not really a theory. I mean, they literally admit it's happening and they say it's a good thing. What people have pointed out is their job facilitating the invasion and promoting it. The politicians that are for this, who support this, the fact that these donors, them, are funding those politicians and that these are the policies they promote. That's what people are talking about. And yes, they do basically do this shape shifting where you can literally see them on social media. In one post, they're saying, as a white person, I think that white people need to sit down and stop talking and let a black woman talk. And then on the next post, they're saying things like, I'm not white, I'm Jewish. That's what people were talking about. That behavior, the shape-shifting, that's what they've been called out for. And just listen to what people like Barbara Specter have said about how the Care Bears are going to be at the forefront of facilitating the invasion, and that Europe is not going to be a European country anymore, and that Europeans are going to have to accept becoming minorities in their own homelands. While, of course, they would never allow that to happen to the Care Bear Nation, their homeland.
Where does that come from?
That is a deeply, deeply ancient anti-Semitic conspiracy theory, right? It's the idea of, well, let's go back to the New Testament.
Of course. Oh, it's those Christians. Oh my goodness. Well, it's not a conspiracy theory. In fact, the New Testament is all true. That is a fact. And this is not ancient. I mean, your behavior hasn't changed throughout history, so that's why the same complaints about you get brought up over and over and over again. And none of this is false. It is true that you have these Care Bear NGOs and organizations like the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society, IsraAid, that are literally facilitating the migrant invasion.
Let's go back to Jesus, right? What happens in that story? The story there is that the Jews go to Pontius Pilate and say, you know, like, this person's unacceptable to us.
Oh, it's the same thing that you do even today, demanding that people disavow Tucker Carlson, not allow him to have a platform, the insane hounding that you guys did to Charlie Kirk, the bullying, the threats to take away donations. It's the same behavior.
And in the mythology of that story,
it's not a myth, Barry. It is a fact. It is the truth.
Jews get what was then the most powerful empire in the world, the Roman Empire, to do their bidding. And you have this line in the book of Matthew that is so, I mean, the bloodiness of this line cannot be quantified, where he says, you know, his blood be on us and on our children.
Yeah, they did say that. That is what they said.
Which goes, you know, down through the centuries to justify the killing of Jews.
I don't think so. They're not being killed. That is ridiculous. They are the people attacking 7 other countries as we speak, harming women and children, babies. It is outrageous. And of course, this includes Fox as well. Almost all of the Western media, all of our tech platforms are compromised by these individuals. Media tycoon Lachlan Murdoch heads to the Care Bear Nation for a secret meeting with Netanyahu. Why are, what we're told, we have a free press in America? Why are the heads of American news outlets having secret meetings with foreign heads of state? How strange. Oh, but it's a conspiracy theory, if you point that out, apparently. And listen to what Jonathan Pollard, one of the most damaging spies in U.S. history, naval intelligence, who was allowed to, he should have been given the proper punishment for treason, this man. He was allowed to flee, to abscond, to leave the country after he was a traitor to America, stole America's national security secrets, gave it to a foreign country, the one he's really loyal to, and he even said that in his own words. He was allowed to make Aliyah, to fly on Sheldon Adelson's private jet and meet Netanyahu on the tarmac. Now he's running for the Knesset in the Care Bear Nation.
I mean, it's hard for me to...
Now listen to him boast about how the Care Bear Nation, back in the 80s, 70s or 80s, literally threatened the United States with nukes. Listen to this.
Admit this. We are now feeding our enemy. I mean, this has never happened in history before, and you have to ask why. And I don't want to hear this business that it's consistent with Jewish morality. It isn't.
We know it isn't. But yes, in fact, it is normal for people to feed their enemies. Have you heard of prisoners of war? They get fed.
Anybody saying that doesn't know anything about Jewish morality at all. Oh, let me bring you back to October 1973, during the Yom Kippur War, when Henry Kissinger instituted an arms embargo against us. And what happened?
So the one time the American government tried to put an arms embargo on them, what happened? He will tell you.
What happened was an A4 Skyhawk was parked at Tel Nof Air Base with some interesting weapons under its wings.
What kind of weapons?
And we told the Americans, take your eye in the sky and take a good look at the airplane that's on that runway. And the next day, the airlift started to Israel, the arms air.
So in other words, we threatened their...
We threatened to use unconventional weapons.
So he just admits our so-called greatest ally threatened to use unconventional weapons on Americans. What is going on here?
I'll leave it at that. And so he said, is this what you want us to threaten now? I said, absolutely, except this time I want us to go forward with it if necessary.
And so he's literally saying we need to use unconventional weapons now, today. It's insane. I can't, there are not words to describe how pathological and demented and sadistic these individuals are.
If they think we're bluffing, we go forward with it. Look, as far as I'm concerned, when we are faced with an existential threat, we have the right to use any and all weapons in our disposal.
Yeah, ones that we stole, that I helped steal. How grotesque. How insane. To openly boast about this, to openly say it, but then if you point it out, you're somehow conspiratorial and a hateful bigot. I don't think so.
To eliminate that existential threat. A lot of people don't know anything about nuclear weapons.
Yeah, look up the Samson option, by the way.
At all. What they are, how they can be used. And I'm tired of using euphemisms. I'm tired of saying, well, we have something, in the basement, but we won't be the first to introduce nuclear weapons in the Middle East. It's enough already.
Yeah, they're the only ones that have nukes in the Middle East, and they're outright threatening to use them.
At first, Israeli leaders claimed Pollard was part of a rogue operation, but later took responsibility for his work. Now, Fox News has learned some U.S. investigators believe that there are Israelis again very much engaged in spying in and on the U.S.
Since September 11th, more than 60 Israelis have been arrested or detained, either under the new Patriot anti-terrorism law or for immigration violations. A handful of active Israeli military were among those detained, according to investigators, who say some of the detainees also failed polygraph questions when asked about alleged surveillance activities against and in the United States. Evidence linking these Israelis to 911 is classified. I cannot tell you about evidence that has been gathered. It's classified information. Classified documents obtained by Fox News indicate that even prior to September 11th, as many as 140 other Israelis had been detained or arrested in a secretive and sprawling investigation into suspected espionage by Israelis in the United States.
So now let's take a listen to what Candace Owens has to say, and keep in mind that Candace Owens comes from a Care Bear talent agency called Explore Talent, where Scott Pressler was one of their, quote, models. Lauren Boebert was. It is very strange. But take a listen.
And others knew that Charlie was done with Israel bullying him, and I'm now going to present you proof of what I am saying. This is
Okay, so she has been, saying some strange things, but also some true things, some things that I believe are true. This is, of course, the hallmark, though, of an intelligence asset of some sort. She, oddly enough, wore a CIA hat just the other day on her show. Make of that what you will.
Actual group chat, which happened 2 days before Charlie Kirk was assassinated. There were 9 people in total on this chat, including Charlie. And Rob McCoy. I'm going to protect the names of the other 7 for now. To be clear, I might actually release a name every day this week.
Yeah, release all of the names. Why are you waiting?
But I want to show you this because suffice it to say, Rob McCoy was on this text thread, and I think it helps contextualize him as a person, in my view, that he would attack me for telling the truth about the pressure that he was facing. Take a look. So Charlie writes in this group chat, just lost another huge Jewish donor, $2 million a year because we won't cancel Tucker.
Yeah, because they demand that you cancel and silence and deplatform and blacklist anybody they don't like.
I'm thinking of inviting Candace. Somebody writes, ugh. Charlie writes, Jewish donors play into all of the stereotypes. I cannot and will not be bullied like this, leaving me no choice but to leave the pro-Israel cause.
Okay, so let's stop it right there. We do not know if these, what is very obviously Telegram thread group chat is legitimate. I believe that it is, though. And in fact, the spokesperson for TPUSA has come out and said that they are genuine. It is interesting that I was one of the first people, along with many of you guys listening, to question the Care Bear Nation's role in this, and certain individuals called us conspiratards and said that we were wrong and there was no evidence, despite the fact that there was a lot of circumstantial evidence to, at the very least, cause us to ponder these things, to question them, along with, of course, the Keydon unit, the history of the Care Bear Nation conducting over 2,300 political assassinations in its history. Of course, there was reason to suspect them. And so I just want to say that, look, it seems like perhaps a lot of us were correct, that there was something going on here involving them.
And somebody writes, the donor writes, please do not invite Candace. That might feel good short term, but it's not good long term. In my opinion, like all groups, you're going to get a wide variety of opinions. That nasty free will thing that God bestowed on us makes life frustrating at times after the dust settles a bit, maybe. So again, this is 48 hours before Charlie Kirk was assassinated. He was very clear and he was very explicit, and he did not back down, not in that Hamptons meeting, which they're all lying about, nor in this text thread.
Yeah, and why did these people lie for weeks about his stance? They even released some letter they claimed he wrote to Milikowski while he was very clearly experiencing duress. Very strange, is it not? We've had people like Josh Hammer out there doing damage control, making a complete and utter fool of himself. Now let's move on to Milikowski himself.
America first doesn't mean America alone.
Oh, really? You think that you are in a position to dictate to Americans what America first means? Interesting.
Because all countries need allies. Superpowers need allies.
Oh, do allies threaten their allies with unconventional weapons? Huh. Do allies spy on their allies? Do they compromise them and blackmail honeypot schemes involving international traffickers of underage girls? Is that what an ally does?
China has allies. Russia has allies.
Yeah, you are allies with both of them. We all know about the technology you have sold to China. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look up Israeli tech transfers to China. Look up Israel selling United States military, sensitive military technology to China. Our laser and missile technology, nuclear technology, my goodness, it is outrageous. And they do the same thing with Russia as well. They have China's currently managing the Haifa port that used to be managed by the United States. It's not any longer. And let's not forget that Russia, Israel, Iran are all signed on to China's Belt and Road Initiative. Hello?
And if you're without allies who may develop the technologies that are needed for your defense or the technologies that are needed for your offense.
Right. So what's funny about this is, like, the mafia, they do these shakedown rackets, right? They'll come into your business, they'll smash things up with a baseball bat, and then they'll say, gee, it's a shame you don't have anybody protecting your store. We can help you out with that. If you just give us money every week, yeah, we'll be coming in and collecting for your protection. It's called a protection racket. I think it's hilarious that he just openly speaks this way. And of course, this is on the Ben Shapiro show.
Or the intelligence to save your lives. Why forfeit yourself of these allies? The problem that you've had over the years, the United States, is that you didn't have these allies pulling their weight. And Israel is an ally. It's a fighting ally that pulls its weight.
Oh, does it? Is that why your fingerprints are all over 9/11, the biggest attack on the United States in history that saw 3,000 people die that day, many more that would die years later due to health complications from just being on the ground that day? Outrageous.
Not only that, not only do we fight, we don't ask for Americans to bring boots on the ground. We can...
Hello, Iraq, Afghanistan. He just lies like nothing. Just the lies just pour out of his mouth.
We've done the job of defending ourselves pretty well, I'd say, over the last 7 years.
No, you subside and subsist off of the largesse of the American taxpayer that sends you billions of dollars a year in aid, and American defense companies who give you our weaponry, our technology.
But it's not only that. We've also defeated enemies who are your enemies who are trying to develop intercontinental ballistic missiles armed with nuclear warheads to attack your cities. That's what Iran was doing.
Right. That's the lie he has been saying since the 1980s about Iran, because that is one of the countries standing in the way of the Greater Israel Plan.
We just knocked out Iran. Also with, as I said, with President Trump's very judicious and pointed assistance. It didn't start World War III. Didn't require, thousands of Americans to die or to go to Tehran. No. We had exactly the right alliance in which we shared the...
What was accomplished by this? Precisely. Why is the Care Bear Nation the only ones allowed to have nuclear weapons in the Middle East? Why?
Imagine that after 9/11...
The sheer audacity of this war criminal, Milikowski, to get up here and to mention 9/11, which his fingerprints are all over, is disgusting. It is shameful.
People would say, okay, now let's give bin Laden and Al-Qaeda, let's give them a state. Not only will we give them a state, it'll be...
Bin Laden and Al-Qaeda are not the individuals that perpetrated that event. We all know who it was. We know about Dov Zakheim, the rabbi who was running the finances of the Pentagon when $2.3 trillion went missing and was announced by Donald Rumsfeld on September 10th. We know about urban moving systems and the dancing Care Bears that celebrated that event. We know about P-Tech. We know about Amdocs. We know about Converse. We know about the art students. We know about the Odingo messaging app. We know about Lucky Larry Silverstein. We know about Kroll and Associates. And it goes on and on and on. You are fooling no one, sir.
1 mile from New York, which is what they're suggesting. After this October 7th massacre against Israel, will give the Palestinians a state 1 mile or a few miles from Tel Aviv. That's not going to promote. Imagine that after 9/11...
Because he's going to promote peace. Oh my God, it is insufferable. Absolutely insufferable. And the Americans who are going along with this are traitors to America, who are taking the shekels, taking the 30 pieces of silver, the $7,000 to post their propaganda. You should all be ashamed of yourselves, and you should all be arrested. Now, this is fascinating. Since October 2023, the IDF spokesperson's unit has released dozens of 3D animations illustrating alleged Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iranian sites. The style is unmistakable. Satellite zoom-ins, black and white wireframes, and red textured houses, a new visual language of war. So check this out. These are the videos that are coming out, and it's fascinating when you put them all together like this, because it really is sort of like, you know, the clip that is famous of all of the so-called local news outlets, and they're all saying, you know, this is a threat to our democracy. They're all saying the same thing, and they line them all up and they say it at the same time. This is kind of like what that is. When you take all of these videos that they have released and you put them together on a graphic like this, it is unmistakable that you're looking at the work of a certain person. It's stylistically all the same, and it doesn't look real. Our analysis of 43 official IDF videos found recycled 3D environments, spatial inaccuracies, and assets lifted from unrelated artists and institutions. Quite literally, they are manufacturing it. They're literally stealing art and putting it in a video and pretending that this is real. We traced over 30 unique assets to Washington-based 3D creator Ian Hubert, who makes bespoke models created for his science fiction project Dynamo Dream, available to his Patreon subscribers. Models of parking lots, antennas, and pipes were repurposed as Hamas and Iranian military sites, and there are people who are stupid and gullible enough to believe that this stuff is real. Hubert's assets, created as decorations for cyberpunk cityscapes, are used especially widely in animations that the IDF released during their strikes on Iran in June. Ripped assets from Hubert are shown here in stills from IDF animations with blue highlights. They pretend that this was somehow their, like, intelligence. You know, oh, look, we're sharing intelligence with the United States about these nuclear reactors in Iran, and it's literally a fake thing. Other assets came from scans made by the Scottish Maritime Museum of their boat building workshop, which was downloaded via Sketchfab and reimagined by the IDF adornments for underground missile factories. They truly, truly think that you are stupid, that you are this dumb. These assets have been used in IDF videos as recently as September 5th in an animation from the Mushtaha Tower in Gaza City, which was destroyed by Care Bear airstrikes the same day. In this video, the ground itself is a patchwork quilt of third-party scans of pavements and parking lots. It's literally the same thing that this guy made for his 3D animations that they put in there. They're taking assets from other people's videos and reimagining them, resizing them, and then putting it together and pretending that this is somehow real. Oh, look at these terror towers. Absurd. One of the most well-known of these animations is a video depicting Al-Shifa Hospital, published in October 2023. We found that an underground command room was recycled from a previous 2022 IDF animation. Moreover, the street above was built from prefab online KB 3D online storefronts. They're literally buying 3D animations and remaking them and putting them in their propaganda videos. These videos are produced in-house by a small animation cell in the IDF spokesperson's unit, working mainly in After Effects and Blender. In a TikTok posted after the Care Bears' June attacks on Iran, soldiers describe working weeks under Prime Minister level secrecy to prepare the fake visuals for the gullible idiots that are going to believe it. The video outlines that a specific goal of these animations is to multiply their reach by cultivating secondary coverage, and indeed, dozens of major news quote-unquote outlets like the BBC, CNN, and Sky News have aired them in part or in full, often without context. You couldn't make it up if you wanted to. It is that absurd. Over months, we gathered material and analysis before working with colleagues to bring the investigation together for their respective audiences. Fantastic work. Highly recommend it. Give these people a follow. It's just, this is where we are at, guys. This is where we are at. And it gets worse, of course. The Care Bear Nation is preparing for nuclear war. The Dimona nuclear plant, where weapons are assembled, is expanding, as seen on satellite images. If the United States ever turns off the weapons tap, the Care Bear Nation is going to have its own Samson option for its defense. A massive nuclear retaliation. Quote, satellite images showed intensified construction, possibly a heavy water reactor for plutonium production, or even a warhead assembly facility. This is the Dimona facility, and this is also the reason that JFK was assassinated. The Care Bears are expanding the illegal and not monitored Dimona nuclear plant, where nuclear weapons are assembled. Remember, they have never signed a non-proliferation agreement. They do not allow international inspections. Nobody knows how they dispose of nuclear waste, but you can see how they are building out the site when you compare the two satellite images. This is very concerning. And just to wrap things up, okay? Care Bear International Assassins, with allegations of running a snuff film studio and SEA. This one's going to be for the real Smith Case deadheads. So this is a story that is absolutely insane. Coming this week on Exit from AFCO, the comedy of errors that resulted in New Zealand authorities finding a Mossad passport forgery ring in 2004, featuring Ehud Barak's neighbor, assassination plots, and a DPRK train explosion which killed 12 Syrian missile scientists. Of course, the work of Kidan. In between times, Barkin did not go to ground. He was named by Cambodian media a year after disappearing from New Zealand as, along with accomplices, running a studio making snuff and porn movies in the Mekong River town of Pen Yaoin in Cambodia. In a professional studio, girls from New Zealand and Australia, students and tourists, were lured into thinking they were going to become movie stars. At first, they made corn films in studios in Phnom Penh behind a local bar before branching out into films of hangings and executions of city vagrants, followed by self-harm films. This is insane. This is disgusting. We are told these people are our allies. So that's all I have for you guys today. I'm interested to know what you guys make of all of this, and I hope you guys have a good day.
The operation started 10 years ago, not with pagers, but with weaponizing walkie-talkies.
A walkie-talkie was a weapon, just like a bullet or a missile or a mortar.
So a walkie-talkie bomb.
A walkie-talkie bomb. They got a good price.
A good price that couldn't be too low or they'd be suspicious. In the end, Hezbollah bought over 16,000 of these exploding walkie-talkies that Israel then didn't activate for 10 years.
We have an incredible array of possibilities of creating foreign companies that have no way being traced back to Israel, shell companies over shell companies who affect the supply chain to our favor. We create a pretend world. We are a global production company. We write the screenplay. We're the directors, we're the producers, we're the main actors. The world is our stage.
These documents detail hundreds of incidents in cities and towns across the country that investigators say, quote, may well be an organized intelligence gathering activity. The first part of the investigation focuses on Israelis who say they are art students from the University of Jerusalem and Bezalel Academy. They repeatedly made contact with U.S. government personnel, the report says, by saying they wanted to sell cheap art or handiwork. Documents say they, quote, targeted and penetrated military bases, the DEA, FBI, and dozens of other government facilities, and even secret offices and unlisted private homes of law enforcement and intelligence personnel. The majority of those questioned, quote, stated they served in military intelligence, electronic surveillance intercept, and/or explosive ordnance units. A General Accounting Office investigation referred to Israel as Country A and said, quote, according to a U.S. intelligence agency, the government of Country A conducts the most aggressive espionage operation against the U.S. of any U.S. ally. A defense intelligence report said Israel has a voracious appetite for information and, quote, the Israelis are motivated by strong survival instincts which dictate every facet of their political and economic policies. It aggressively collects military and industrial technology, and the U.S. is a high priority target.